Give me 10 minutes and I'll show you why right now is the perfect time to bet everything on tech, especially AI. So why right now is the moment to go all in AI? Well, for me, my jump was from 3D animation into coding into 3 months, right? So adding AI on top of another 3 wet months, that that really helped out a lot, right? And then after that, now I have Apple, Google, Meta, the FAANG companies reach out and headhunt me without me even applying, right? Because AI is a hot topic right now. It's actually booming. A lot of people say it, but they're actually looking for people who could actually do it. And what I wish someone told me when I started, when I was stuck and desperate to break through this, I wish these people told me these things, which I'm going to share to you today. And this is the exact advice I would have saved me years of wandering around, searching in the wrong direction. And hopefully this will help you point you in the right direction right here for us right now. One thing I would like to point out for the uncomfortable truth is that most people, they're not lazy, right? They're just ambitious in the wrong direction. So there's 24 hours in a day. Everyone works the same amount of time within that time period, but the ROI or the return on investment is different for other people, right? And one thing is being safe, trying to chase a career instead of a tech, like something in tech or in AI. I would say that was one of the, detrimental things at the beginning, right? At first, I was like chasing security, not necessarily opportunity. So I started out in engineering, chemical engineering specifically. Didn't know anything about it, but mainly chose it because I heard it was a safe way and it was pretty lucrative. Didn't know much about it. And quite frankly, didn't really care too much about it either. But I would say the first turning point was my first coding course. Because one thing when you're in engineering, you have to take coding, mainly because unlike other professions, let's say you are working as a writer or any like office job, most likely you have tools or software that already exist that you use for it, such as Microsoft Word or Google Docs and like Excel, spreadsheets or anything like that, right? When you're in engineering, you're solving problems that haven't really been seen before. So most likely tools didn't exist. So you have to create them. So you had to learn how to code. Now, the thing is that I found that was interesting is when I first went to a coding class, I was the only person that never took coding before. So I was definitely lost. I felt really dumb compared to anyone else because everyone knew the core concepts and it was all foreign to me. So at that time, I actually went all in on programming and I doubled down on AI later on. And those things are both at the time when I started off was completely overwhelming, didn't understand anything at all. And the common fear is that tech, especially now, the tech is saturated. You're like, well, everyone's talking about it. Can I even get in? And the other one is AI is going to replace devs and whatnot. Now, the thing is, reality is AI is disrupting every industry, not just tech. And if you're in tech, right, you're doing the disrupting yourself, right? And one of the superpowers is that if you are an expert in your own discipline, knowing AI makes you have superpowers because not only did you know how to use AI, you also know that world, that domain, that you know what's right or what's wrong and what could be optimized, that someone else not in there might not be able to make that connection. So that is actually very beneficial to you. Now for the asymmetric bet. What do I mean by that? Pivoted to tech and then into AI. That's pretty much what I did for my career, right? And one thing I would say, if you're under 30s or even in your 30s, right, there's pretty much no excuse not to go all in AI engineering now, right? Basically, I failed multiple careers, techs, still saved my trajectory, mainly because you don't know a lot of people, you don't know what you want to do when you start growing up, or like what you want to do in your career. You're just told you have to do something. So you look at things, you try, you don't really like it, right? Now, the thing is, if I went all in on AI early, growth would have been exponential now, right? So yeah, I caught up, which is good. But if you're, under 30, you're still in your 30s, you have a huge potential here, right? Because at that time, downside is almost nothing right now, and upside is everything, because you don't have as much necessarily responsibilities and you haven't like set your ways yet. So you still have time to like reinvent yourself, and you still could do it more so now. It's just that you might have a little more friction. And a lot of, especially how things are going right now with AI and whatnot, pretty much you have no choice but to do so, like to incorporate AI for your own domain to even to maintain your own career right now, right? Every industry is implementing this, right? And my path, I started off as like a 3D artist, then TD, technical director, then supervisor, and now I'm the AI guy, right? And in your 20s and your 30s, you pretty much have a little to lose, right? So that's why it's asymmetrical, because you have everything to gain. You can take as many shots as you can while the downside is near zero. So if you fail, you could just dust yourself off and get back up and try again. I would say one of the big lessons that tech taught me, especially engineering and tech and whatnot, is that you never go back to zero. Like I said, I've tried many things and you failed, right? But every failure leaves you with an experience and momentum. So I did web development, right? And the struggles for that helped me learn Python a lot easier, especially at the time when I was learning Python. I wasn't actually formally learning it. I was like learning it, the pieces as I needed, right? But I was able to associate other struggles to make that easier. And like Python, in learning Python also made learning AI concepts easier and faster, mainly because of going through the process itself that helped. And then the other thing as well is because I jump into things and then try to figure out learning just in time, I found beats learning everything up front, where you try to learn every single possible scenario where you actually haven't been in a real case scenario. And by going there, you realize that you only need to know a subset. It's kind of like if you go to a new country to learn a language, being there for 2 weeks, you'll pick up the words that people mostly use most of the time, and that's enough for you to get by. You don't have to go sit down and learn every single word and sentence and grammar structure to get by. And the other thing I learned is that each skill compounds, right, from the last. So you're leveraging what you learned before, and you're just building on top of that. And the other thing, the first coding attempts were bad. Like I said, it's a disaster. I didn't know anything, and I quit because I just couldn't figure out. It was like drinking water from a fire hose. And the thing is, I'll quit, I'll take a break, then I'll say, okay, you know what, I'll come back later, and all of a sudden everything actually clicked. And I think there's it's like scientific evidence backing that up, where you learn something, you actually have to rest, in your brain actually rests and reorganizes everything to make connections for you to understand things a lot better and come back. I heard that's an actual thing, so that might be what was happening at the time. But I do find, there's a limit, not a limit where I would say you get saturated, you push yourself, and then you get frustrated. You sit down, calm yourself down, and then with a cool head, a lot of things you thought about started clicking. I find that helps, right? And the other thing is, this is a big thing that people don't realize. The failures secretly give me data and pattern recognition. I find I learn a lot more from the failures than the success, right? Especially if you get success early, because failures, you learn a bunch of the things that you should not do. And that sticks with you because it's a lot, I guess, more, I don't know if might be a strong word, but like traumatizing. And the bad thing that happened if you don't do this thing correctly, and that sticks with you. Whereas when you succeed, you celebrate and you just remember the good times about it, but you don't really critically think about what you actually did to succeed. At least that's my interpretation of that. And, success is stacking experience, right? Not endless planning. So with that being said, planning all the time and not actually leveraging or not actually executing, you're not actually stacking success and experience and getting kind of a positive feedback with that, right? It's potential that's not doing anything, not being connected, being used. It's useless. It's the same thing as doing nothing, right? And the other part as well, years of invisible work compound into like quote unquote overnight success. And there's so many people I know that they say like their overnight success, and when you speak to them, they're like, yeah, well, this happened to turn right now, but I've been doing this for 10 years before it came out. And I even had people came to me before things turn around, saying like, you've been at this for how many years, and I haven't seen any progress from that. And even that affects how you interact with other people, and it could affect you at that point, right? But until things all of a sudden click, quote unquote, and it seems overnight because just yesterday nothing seemed to happen, and all of a sudden the floodgates open. But no, you've actually been building up for a while before that happened. So keep that in mind. And even in my path, what tech taught me and going from failure and you're learning and compounding. I started off in like film, 3D, video game, AAA games. Then I started web development because I saw, especially when I started doing a company, web development and app development is one of the most universal skills to make prototypes really quickly, and everyone has access to that. It's a great skill, especially for front end and all that, and you could build a lot of things behind it. And then I saw like AI was a big thing, and learning on top of all these things helped, which led to working on Apple Vision Pro, making AI models for that, and also self-driving cars that actually drove on a closed course. All these things stacked on what I've learned from before. So it's what seems like failure is like, no, it leaves something worth with you. It's kind of like if you played a video game and you played a level and it was really hard the first time and you failed and you have to start over. The next time and the time after that, you get better and better and faster because you learn from your failures and it just stack up on it. This is what I would say is pretty much the real programming path a lot of people experience going through this. So you're in your 20s or 30s and you're working really hard at your job that you hate or you're stuck at because of where you are at the moment, right? Degrees not necessarily opening up doors. It's not like what it used to be where you work really hard and you get everything you want, or you have a degree and your life is perfect. Or the thing is you have a degree and like you're unemployed and you're frustrated and you keep trying and things are just not happening for you, right? Then you go online and you see people building AI apps, especially everywhere you turn, and they're landing huge salaries. And you think, I want that life, right? So how does that work? You want to take asymmetric bets, right? You want to do something that if you succeed, you get a big upside of it and everything's amazing. And if you fail, which a lot of times you probably will, it's a tiny downside. At least you could take the hit, you dust yourself off after you lick your wounds and then go back at it again, right? If you want big goals, right, you have to go after them, right? And unfortunately, it's going to be blind courage at the beginning, right? Because if everyone knew the exact path, the exact step to take, the exit or the map to the maze to get out, everyone would be doing it, right? But if you're going to get out of the maze, you actually have to blindly go through it and keep going until you find the path. It's going to be blind. Nobody knows what it is, so you're going to have to have blind courage for that. And basically, even when I applied for the portfolio job for my AI, my first AI job with that, I had like 0 ML or like real world experience in the professional realm at that point, right? I got it, but I got it based off of the potential. They were looking for people and actually working on the job. I actually got it, right? And the thing is, when you apply for something, the worst case scenario is that they'll say no, right? And I know a lot of people don't like rejection. I don't like rejection. Nobody likes rejection. But when you think about it, you can't get a yes unless you ask for it. A closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? The worst case is them saying no. You keep trying until you say yes. And you could try 1,000 times and you fail. As soon as you get that one yes, all those other 1,000 times, people forget about. You forget about it. Everything's good at that point. So the next thing is you'll never feel ready. Especially if you're starting anything new, you'll never ever feel ready. So just start. Again, the worst thing that can happen is that, it doesn't work out. But not doing anything is the same thing as it not working out, right? At least if you start, you have a chance of actually making it. And if you're diligent about it, most likely you will, or at least get better at it. You'll learn something that the next time you'll build on top of it. That's the only way you'll get better, by keep doing it with purpose and intent with that, right? In that first Python script, it's going to be broken, neural network. It's part of the process. It's not going to work. Most of it is like not even probably the neural network itself. Like you don't even know how to install Python or how to get it to work, or you're following a tutorial and the way it works now is very different than all these other 1,000,001 things. The thing is, you have to keep going until you get there, right? And your career is an infinite game, meaning that it's not like what you're led to believe like in the past 40 years ago, where your career, you just go to school, you get a degree, and then you're set for life and you just keep going. That's not how it is right now. Even I think studies show like nobody stays longer at a job than 2 to 3 years nowadays, right? So you always have to reinvent yourself there. So even if you're great at your career now, things like AI could come in and disrupt every single industry and everyone's put on notice, right? So you want to make sure you're ahead of the curve. And AI is not necessarily going to take your job, but the people who know how to use AI, that's where the threat is. So you want to be on the right side of the fence here, right? And the other thing is, even after, I did self-driving cars and co-founded an AI company, I am still learning. Like, AI engineering is so moving so fast. Literally every week, something new comes out and you think, okay, this is great. And then the next week, the competitor brings out something even better. And it's super fast. Like, you cannot stay still. You have to keep learning, right? And like right now, I'm like going into like AI agents. Well, there's LL fine tuning. That's, I mean, more on the ML side, I guess, or thing of it. But AI agents, I think, is a really great thing. And an agent or agentic workflow. There's like RAG and agentic nowadays. That's really happening. Agentic workflow is actually including tools to supplement what the AI, like a model, can't do. Like, so for example, if you started off with, let's say, ChatGPT in the earlier days, that's when it's made to available to the public, it couldn't do things. Try asking it to do like mathematical problems. It will talk to you as if it's what it's talking about, but when you check out a lot of times of some things that you would think is simple is not calculating properly, because LLMs or large language models are not necessarily trained to or maybe newer ones now, or like by the time you view this, but like in general in the past, like large language models were trained for language and not necessarily the strongest in reasoning for mathematics and whatnot, because it wasn't necessarily trained on that. But using agentic workflow, meaning you could bring a tool that, okay, well, I connect it to like Python and use NumPy, or connect it to a calculator. So I'll defer to that, get the result, and bring it back. Now you're seeing that it connecting tools and making it available, or a tool to connect to the internet, or let's say a tool to do OCR, to like optical character recognition, so it could take a picture and figure out the words, and it could transcribe a document afterwards, even though the model itself wasn't designed to do that, but use a tool to do it for you. It's basically augmenting the model's power by doing these techniques. So it's really powerful, and unlocked a lot of things that even in the last year couldn't do before, right? And tech changes all the time. However, problem-solving mindset compounds, right? So the thing is, you want to be able to be a problem solver and understand what tech is available to help solve the problem, and it's not the other way around. It's not like I have a tech, let me go. I'm like a hammer looking for a nail, right? So in this case, lessons from Python transferred very well for language and framework. Every language and framework, like, of course, the syntax or the way you say it or the way it's designed is a little different, but the concept helps. And you see patterns once, because it keeps showing up everywhere, right? And that's why it's being exposed to it. And you might fail the very first time, like I mentioned it before, it might not open doors or whatnot. I mentioned it somewhere here, but by keep going at it, you start seeing things, and like little by little, you start figuring things out. Next thing I would like to say is competence over passion over here. And the thing is, competence beats passion, right? It will beat it, because passion comes from confidence and skill, not necessarily the other way around. So ML math, or basically like machine learning math, like you have to learn gradients and matrices, which is linear algebra, backprop or backpropagation. And basically, when I first started, like, it was just an onslaught of literally every word that was said in a sentence I didn't understand. It made me want to quit. I just wanted to quit because I didn't understand what's going on. But once you master something, passion follows, because at that point, like, that barrier of understanding what all these things mean was gone. So now I could actually appreciate for what it is, and I was actually passionate about what can be done. And then at the time when I was doing my first job, building models for stock predictions, debugging the stock predictions, and like at the time, LSTMs was relatively new and was dominant. It's a model architecture, like stands for long short-term memory, because one of the problems with neural network is it couldn't remember. So everything every data point is called, like, at least in supervised learning, it's called stochastic, meaning this single data point has nothing to do with what's before or after. The order doesn't really matter. But some cases, you have to remember things. So understanding this architecture, and every week the new thing keeps showing up. Now the dominant architecture model is the transformer model, came out or introduced in 2018 paper. Until this day, that's pretty much used, and it kind of replaced the LSTM. But at that time, especially when it was new, debugging was very painful because you had to try to figure out why. And it's a real world scenario. It had to work for basically to complete your job, right? And again, there's breakthrough moments. Model finally made real money in this case, right? And that's another thing, is that like being put under pressure and like learning just in time is that you have to get this to work, or else it's not going to work, right? It's different than if you're just kind of learning this as a hobby, because as soon as you get tired, you just stop, or you forget, or you do other things. You might pull it out, things might have changed, but when you're working on a real project and you're like, hey, you have to get this done by tomorrow or by next week, or your department or yourself is not going to be working there anymore, you have a very different motivation. And I'm not to say that you should always, that's the only way to learn, but if you're able to create a sense of urgency or desperation, you could go as far as saying something like that, in terms of learning AI, even though if it's manufactured or you have to make it up yourself, that will help you propel yourself or motivate you to finish what you started and get the ball rolling with that, right? And the other thing about that is having clarity in your head. Understand exactly what you need, the goals, the steps to get there. That will beat all cleverness in your code, because a lot of times people want to make fancy code to seem really smart, but at the end of the day, is it actually solving the problem? Is it clear? Are you able to convey that to other people and coordinate and get the job done? That's more important. And I would definitely say pick one thing right there, pick one and go all in, go end to end, at least finish something. Because as I mentioned in the other section before, if you finish something and you learn one thing, it compounds and it will help the next thing. And especially if you go to the end, you kind of help anticipate in something else. It might be a little different, but there's probably a lot of commonalities between them. And going end to end will help, finishing something from start to finish will help you with that. And I would say don't bounce from, let's say, web, then mobile, then AI, then blockchain. Just dabbling in a little bit of everything. They say jack of all trades, master of none, right? You can't do anything well, or can't even finish one thing. Pick one, go to the end, then go to another thing, and then you could compound them. But if you try to mix and match, most likely, at least statistically, most people don't go through all of it, right? And then what I would suggest in terms of picking that one thing is decide to become exceptional, right over here, the exceptional part, at one specific craft. And that's what I would say is your specific domain, because that will be your superpower, because you already know what it's supposed to be. What the right answer is, that I wouldn't know, because I'm not in that domain. Now, to add AI on top of that, you'll be unstoppable, right? So in my choice, for example, I was, doing production AI systems, right? Because I already been doing systems and pipelines before. Now just adding AI to the mix just made it exponentially better with that. And all that stuff actually worked, and it's not theory, because you've done it before and it works, and that's why people come out to you, because you're like, hey, you could actually get results. One thing I would say is the speed of execution. Do it as fast as you can. Do it now. As the saying goes, everybody says that money loves speed, right? Money comes with speed. I got into tech because I wanted to make more money. I find that I'm on that side and learning other pieces of it. Especially if I learn different aspects or different disciplines and combine it, I can make more money with it. And the thing is, money does not wait or come from waiting for the perfect opportunity. And that's one thing I've learned, is that if I want to get something done, I go and create the opportunity. I go and make it happen. Now, the thing is, it's scary. It still is, even to people who done it multiple times, such as myself, because you are basically trotting on unknown territory, right? But when it does work out, it's exponentially better than you just try to play safe all the time, right? And fast decisions create momentum, and income. As soon you make something and you get the ball rolling, other things start happening as well. Whereas if you don't do anything, there's no momentum, nothing really flows with that, right? So do not wait for the perfect learning path. Get going, right? You'll come in along the way, and if something happens to be perfect along the way, that's great. But start right now. Like, I learned web development in 3 and 4 months, and then started applying for positions and try to do real projects right away. Am I qualified? Am I the best at that time? No, definitely not. Qualified, there's different level of things, right? But I would say, am I the best? No, but I'm able to do something, at least know enough to be dangerous to do something, right? And get started, and you finally get someone to give you a chance. And by doing that real projects, now you actually have real confidence because you actually finish a project. So when people ask, have you done something? They say yes, automatically they believe you right away because you already have proved that you could do something. And B, all the things you learn in 3 or 4 months, you solidify because you actually had to deal with real world scenarios. So you're a lot more confident behind that. And the other things, by applying right away, rejection showed me exactly what to do, what to learn, and what to do next. Because you go and try something and you fail, of course you feel bad. No one ever gets really over that, right? But if you actually do a postmortem and actually assess, like, why did you fail? Oh, because I didn't know this. Okay, so go back and learn it. So next time you'll be prepared. And you keep doing it until you don't fail anymore, right? You see the same pattern in AI, right? So 3 months when in terms, so we're talking about, I learned web development in 3 to 4 months. So when I did AI, I learned AI in 3 or 4 months. And I usually try to give myself a time limit because you could go down a rabbit hole and keep learning forever and ever and ever, and new things keep coming out. I say these will be the foundational things. And from this, I'll start going out and like do job, like try to go get a job. And in this case, I did at the time, I happened to have gotten a job and to building models to predict the stock market, right, for portfolio managers. Again, that's a time and place. I can't guarantee anybody that, okay, you study for 3 or 4 months and everything's just going to fall in your lap, right? It's not always the case, but you have to try at it. And it happened to me in this case, but no one can guarantee, like, if this happened today at this age, where a lot more people are more prominent and learning about it, it might not be, it's not the same climate, right? And even when I started, they came and they wanted you to do this work, and I was not fully ready. I just started learning, about the AI at that point, and kind of knew the concepts and whatnot, but I still got the job. And by moving fast, and like, you got there and you're like, okay, well, figure it out. You kind of like jump out and try to build a plane and make it fly before it hits the ground. And so that's definitely a motivation for that, right? And the thing is, I found out, like, my 3D animation and background became an edge in AI, because one thing that's very they're actually kind of related in a sense that, like, the GPUs, or the graphic processing unit, the concept of that was invented by NVIDIA, from my understanding, right? And the main purpose of that, it was actually to solve for real-time video games. It just so happens that real-time video games deals with large memory footprint, a large, like, data, right? And really fast and computationally heavy, like, computing. Like, you need a lot of computing power to make this happen. And a lot of it, the GPU actually uses linear algebra, like matrices, to do all these calculations. It just so happens that AI, well, it's been around for a while. Like, there's papers on a lot of the techniques in neural networks since the 1970s. The problem was they didn't have the computation power, or the memory storage, or the memory couldn't handle the memory footprint. It just so happened in video games, the video game NVIDIA cards, GPU, were solving that problem, right? So a lot of the techniques and, like, dealing with large data, like QuickTime processing and optimizing, was transferable to AI. So it definitely gave me an edge on that part, right? And the other part here is, having, like, domain specific, knowledge for what you have over here. Like, I'll just show you here, domain experience is your superpower. So in my case, I knew 3D animation and video games in real time, and it helped lend really well. But if you're good at, let's say you're into culinary arts, that's not my forte, and you see that there's a lot of opportunities in that space for AI. I don't know that domain, so would be your superpower. So if you came up with a solution and you go to your clients who recognize you because you know that space, they're more comfortable and more likely to take your solution, right? My advice to you basically is to go and push code right now, right? Start building projects right now, and basically start applying, right? Well, one thing, you got to push code. You got to learn, well, how do you start doing that? So anything to get the ball rolling is always the hardest part. So get that out of the way, right? Start building projects now. They're going to be terrible if you've never done it before. Yes, of course, get that out of the way. Figure out why it's terrible and get better at it. So it's not like you do nothing, wait a year, and then decide, okay, I want to build a great project when you haven't done anything at all. So waiting that year is not going to do anything. But going through the motions will help. And apply now. That's one thing I would say is very important. Start early, because most likely most people are not going to reply to you, or if they are, it's not like I reply now, an hour later they jump on your attack because they're waiting for you specifically. It's a numbers game. You have to be consistent at it. You send out lots, hundreds, thousands, and it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, but finally someone gets to yours and they actually respond back to you, right? That only works out if you keep applying and stay consistent with that, and acting today rewards, because tomorrow's opportunity, I would like to say, may be gone. It may never even occur in the first place. So when you see an opportunity, you seize it. You can't just say pause, opportunity come back tomorrow, right? That's when they say what luck is when preparedness meets opportunity, right? So you want to get as prepared as possible, but looking for opportunities, jump at it as soon as you can, because not everything's perfect. There's no perfect learning path. Nothing's perfect. Nothing is ever really perfectly aligned. You try to work with what the cards you dealt with, that try to make it happen. And once you do make it happen, it stabilizes. Everything seems easy at that point until there's another disruption and you have to, learn again. One important thing I would like to mention, and it might sound mean, but it's one thing I had to do myself and learn, is to get over your story, right? Life is not fair. You hear all the time that only if I had this, but I had, these things get in the way. That's everybody, right? You have to get over your story, because no one is gonna, stop what they're doing and help you reach your goals. You have to fight for it, right? So, for example, even nowadays, like no CS or computer science degree is not really even a barrier anymore right now, in this space at least. Of course, that's not for everybody's case in terms of degree. Like if you're a doctor, you want to be certified of that, right? But in this case, like having computer science is not necessarily. Like, for example, I finished a computer science degree with honors after I already was working in AI. I got it because I saw this was a big opportunity, and AI is going to be going places. And I personally, the reason why I got the degree at the time was I'm already doing this stuff and I don't want people questioning if I know it or not. So let me just do this degree. Now, not everybody has this luxury because it is really expensive, right? And I did find out throughout the whole thing, every project I've encountered in the real world by doing every AI project that's very, very similar. So that also kind of further my belief that you don't necessarily need a degree to learn this stuff, right? And of course, if you have an opportunity, you can't create an opportunity and jump on it, you can still make it happen, right? And the other problem, people say, it's oh, I'm too old for this career, so I can't switch. That is a myth, right? You could keep going. Failures gave me so much perspective and hunger that, okay, I'm going to do better next time, right? And if you're saying too old, it's kind of putting a barrier before you even try. What is actually stopping you if you're actually trying to do something, and did you get a message, a pop-up saying, oh, you're too old, so we're not going to send this email, right? A lot of it is because you put a barrier so it prevents you from trying before you even start, right? A lot of it's mental barriers, a lot of it's the mindset, right? The other thing is non-technical background. I would actually say, especially nowadays, is an advantage, because you would think of things in a different way. And especially even AI engineering now, you can actually build models and not know necessarily how to code. You need to know how it's supposed to work, how to get it together with it. And the other thing is, if you know your own domain, you could solve problems that in your own domain that only you understand, that even someone with a computer science degree might not know your domain. So them could be a super expert in AI, but they wouldn't be as good as someone as you that knows your domain and knows just enough to solve the problem. You'll be a lot more sought after by companies if they're aware of what you can do, right? And while the other thing is, while other people copy the same projects, in this case, you'll be building unique AI solutions because you know your domain and you know what people actually care about in that domain and how to solve it, right? And the other thing about this, in terms of getting over your story of like, oh, I'm too old for this, or I don't have a degree, or on whatnot, is that code itself does not care about your past, right? It's binary, does it work or not, right? And every AI engineer once Google, what is neural network, right? Everyone started from the beginning, and we all started from, print hello world. Nobody was innate with this knowledge. So if you want to learn about it, you just have to go out and get there, and you'll eventually catch up. It's your move. If you're in your 20s or your 30s, and this is the time for you to go and take on massive bets right now. But that's bets, right? And the downside of failing is basically tiny compared to the regret of not even trying, right? And AI is creating the biggest wealth transfer in history right now, right? And you want to jump on that. And you can either help build it or pretty much watch from the sidelines, right? So if I could make this transition, so the only perfect move is to start.